Hi, grade 4. Good morning. Are you still doing good? Because right now we will finish our lesson on Juan de la Cruz and Uncle Sam. Let's start. The Americans were not happy that Philippine independence was becoming more stable. On the other hand, the Filipinos continued to resent the treacherous closing of the gates to Intramuros on them during the capture of Manila. Indeed, the Filipinos considered it a grave insult to have been shut off by foreigners in their own land. First is the Battle of Manila. At daybreak of the following day, the Americans bombarded the Filipino fort at San Juan del Monte. The Filipinos fought back in different parts of Manila. General Antonio Luna, a Filipino militarist trained in Europe, boldly attacked Manila with his forces, burning the American-occupied homes in different parts of the city. The American fire brigades rushed to the burning areas to put out the flames. However, Filipino bolo men cut down the firemen's hoses as Filipino troops advanced almost halfway to the walled city. American forces were able to stop them only after a bloody fight. The Filipinos' resistance and counterattacks angered the Americans. Thus, they began an offensive northward under the command of General Arthur MacArthur, with the main objective of capturing Malolos, the capital of the Republic. The Filipinos fought valiantly against all odds. However, on March 31, 1899, the Americans captured Malolos. Rejoicing over their victory, the Americans believed the war was finally over. But the Filipinos were determined to defend the country to the bitter end at all costs. Aguinaldo, after fleeing from Malolos, transferred the capital to San Fernando, Pampanga. Thus, the Americans continued their drive toward the north, even pursuing their offensive to the southern Luzon region and Visayas and down to Mindanao. However, the Filipinos resisted as best as they could. The Americans fought bloody battles against Filipinos everywhere they went. The Filipino-American War was not at all a losing battle for the Filipinos, who also had their victories. One of these was the attack on the Americans in Balangiga, Samar on September 1901 by General Vicente Lucban's Bolomen. The attack was so violent and the American casualty so high that the Americans called this encounter Massacre of Balangiga. In retaliation, General Jake Howling Smith gave the following instructions to men. I want no prisoners. I wish you to kill and burn. The more you kill and burn, the better you will please me. I want all persons killed who are capable of bearing arms in actual hostilities against the United States. The resultant brutal action of U.S. soldiers who followed General Smith's directive led to the massacre of thousands of Filipinos on Summer Island and the destruction of many villages and agricultural fields. After the war ended, General Smith was court-martialed for his conduct in the Samar campaign. Meanwhile, Aguinaldo and his staff had fled to the north through hills and mountains, fields and forests, finally establishing his camp at Palanan, Isabela. It is a mountainous area, difficult to assault and which could be reached only through Tirad Pass. The pass was a narrow mountain trail that Aguinaldo used to flee from the American troops determinedly pursuing him. Aguinaldo ordered General Gregorio del Pilar and 60 of his men to guard the pass tightly as he made his escape. On December 1899, Major March, through the help of a Filipino guide, attacked Tirad Pass from the rear. This was the historic Battle of Tirad Pass, where General Del Pilar died. However, it took the Americans another year before they were able to track down Aguinaldo. After the capture, Aguinaldo was taken to Manila, where he was received by General MacArthur at Malacañang Palace. On April 1, 1901, Aguinaldo took his oath of allegiance to the United States. The capture of Aguinaldo ended the First Philippine Republic, but not the war. The Filipino patriots continued their fight. Although the Filipinos were beaten in war, they did not give up their dream for independence. When the Americans came to the Philippines during the Spanish-American War, they had no intention of colonizing the Philippines forever. In President McKinley's message to the United States Congress in 1899, he admitted that the Philippines did not belong to the United States even if the United States had conquered it by force. He added that it was not for America to exploit the country, but to develop and civilize, to educate, and to train the people in the science of self-government. After Emilio Aguinaldo died, Manuel Quezon was the new president of the Philippines. William Howard Taft, as the first civil governor, allowed the Filipinos greater participation in the government of their own country. He was highly respected by the Filipinos because he was friendly. His policy of the Philippines for the Filipinos served to lessen some of the people's hostilities. However, the Filipinos' desire for independence continued to burn in their hearts of many of the country's leaders. In 1916, the American Congress passed the Philippine Autonomy Act, popularly known as Jones Law. It will grant independence to the Filipinos when a stable government had been established. The Jones Law was also included a bill upholding the Filipinos' rights to freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press, and to peacefully assemble for redress of grievances. Next is the Didings-McDuffie Law. This stipulated the granting of Philippine independence on July 4, 1946, after a 10-year transition period under the Commonwealth of the Philippines to give the Filipinos more experience in self-government. For a long time, the Filipinos had been greatly influenced in their cultural, social, economic, and political life by 3 centuries of Spanish colonial rule. They were just as greatly influenced by the American regime, which lasted for only half a century. Democracy is America's claim as its greatest legacy to the Filipino people, as much as Christianity was the greatest legacy of Spain. The American forces were faithful in fulfilling their president's orders for them to develop, to civilize, to educate, and to train the Filipinos in self-government. And one positive development during the American colonial period was the restoration of women's rights that had been taken away under the Spanish leadership. For example, women were no longer only confined to their homes or colegios or schools for women. They had the freedom to acquire higher education by studying in any university and in any program they wanted. The Americans also introduced the English language, imposing English as the official language of instruction in all schools, business, and social circles until it became the language of the masses. Even the names of the people became English. Rosa became Rose, Jose, Maria, Mary, and Juan, Johnny. Public health, which was neglected during the Spanish period, was promoted during the American era. The Americans established the Bureau of Health and the Quarantine Service. The death rate in the country decreased while the birth rate increased. Also, the Americans introduced Protestantism. In 1899, a lay minister distributed the first Bibles in Manila. The Americans also introduced many forms of recreation. From them to Filipinos learned to listen to the radio, watch silent movies, listen to band concerts, go to carnivals, museums, and exhibits. Today, because of the strange historical influence of the United States on our people, many Filipinos still look up to the American nation as one of the best nations to follow. Today, we learned about the takeover of the United States to the Philippines. I hope you learned something today. If ever you have questions, feel free to message me or leave a comment on the comment section below. Thank you so much, Grateful, and God bless you.